Okay, let's set up the chat on both ends. There we go. We're going to set up something a little bit different today. Hey, Kathy. Let me just set up the chat here on the iPad. I'm going to try something a little different today. I don't know how it's going to work, but I'm going to set up, I've turned on subscribers only mode on YouTube, and that'll try to keep some of the knuckleheads out. We will see how that works. It might be a total failure. Let me set up this here. Live chat on, subscribers, live chat moderation. Hopefully that's going to work. If not, I can always switch it over. 4 people in the house. It is worth trying. But I don't want to, prevent people from coming in and prevent views either. Just because of knuckleheads. I mean, I can always just take those people out. But, it is Sunday. So I kind of like a lot of people to come in. Got 7 people. Yeah, this will be subscribers only if you want to participate in the chat. Just a little test. And in fact, we should check my subscriber count before we start this, don't you think? It can help it or it can hurt it. 12 people. Welcome in. Okay, according to my YouTube studio, we're up to 2728. That's an easy number to remember. 2728. Of course, it could go in one ear and right out the other. So remember that, Kathy. We're starting at 2728 today. Yeah, see, I'm not seeing anybody come into the chat now that I did that. Can anybody type anything into the chat? And there's not a time limit or anything like that. All you have to do is subscribe and boom, bang, you're in. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. 19 people. Yeah, it's hard to, converse with people if I don't have people coming in. I don't know. Maybe I should turn that off. Yeah, see, we've already lost 8 people. Well, maybe that's not going to work for me. Maybe I'm not a big enough channel yet to be able to try something like that. Okay, now it's set to anyone. 15 people in the house. Hey, Kathy Doherty. Kathy with a K, I guess that wasn't going to work. Hello, Kathy with a C. Are we going to have the K's come in today? Kelly's and the Kathys. Hey, Andrew. 18 people here. I guess I could just get started. I'm April Davis, PI. I'm a licensed private investigator in the state of California. I am not working the Nancy Guthrie case. I am simply reporting it. Everybody here is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I would like to clear up some of the mistruths that are floating around. I keep getting messages from people, especially after I did that video a couple days ago. Hi, Styles, regarding the power of attorney rumor. Okay, I've checked with Pima County, Arizona, and there's no evidence whatsoever that Tommaso Cioni had Nancy's power of attorney. Now, the online records only go so many years back, so if you wanted to know for sure, you'd have to go to the recorder's office in person in Pima County, Arizona, and actually have them search depending on what their setup is. Some have microfiche, some have computers on site, some of them have to be searched by the clerk. However, your county works, that's how you do it. But according to the online records, which I have right here, the 3-page document, after Annie and Tommaso bought that house, which was around March of 2025, in May 2025, Tommaso Cioni signed over his power of attorney, called Special Durable Power of Attorney, to his wife. And I've got his signature right here. That is the only thing online that shows that anybody has anybody's power of attorney. This is a special power of attorney where Tommaso allowed his wife to be someone who can, make decisions for him, sign for him. Let's see. In fact, I'll read it to you. It says, Tommaso Cioni, the undersigned principal, hereby makes, constitutes, and appoints Annie Pierce Guthrie, my true and lawful agent for me, with all power and authority to act in my name, place, and stead, and for my use and benefit in any way which I myself could do if I were personally present to sell, convey, purchase, acquire, mortgage, or otherwise encumber, transfer and trust, borrow money, and execute and deliver notes, therefore, loan money, receive notes and securities, therefore, and take or perform any other act necessary or appropriate regarding the real property described on Exhibit A, attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference, the real property. Okay, let's find Exhibit A. Oh, here we go. It's on the 3rd page. Exhibit A. Let's see. Oh, real property description. Lot 22, Block 17, El Rio Park Edition in the city of Tucson, a subdivision of Pima County, Arizona, according to the map or plot thereof of record in the office of the county recorder of Pima County, Arizona, in Book 6 of Maps and Plats, not plots, Plats, at page 17 thereof. And I will not give out the address. Okay. And by the way, it's not the same address as their property address that they live. So it's a special durable power of attorney involving a second property. That's what it's for. There's nothing on Pima County on the online free database that says that Tommaso had or has Nancy Guthrie's power of attorney. So unless it's a really, really old document that they'd have to hand pull, that's not true. Let's see. Uh-oh. See, this is why we were going to try subscribers only. Only 3.5% Italian. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, I'm not trying to delete the message. I'm trying to put the user and a timeout. Did we do it now? See, this has just taken up so much of my time. How did I learn my trade? Good question, Kathy. I was actually preparing to be a police officer. Back east, I graduated high school early, started college early, had to get my parents to sign a consent form, and I signed up for criminal justice. I went to a few colleges in Maryland temporarily until I could move back to California. then got involved in a local community college criminal justice program, which out here was called AJ, Administration of Justice. The only 4-year school that had criminal justice at the time was Cal State LA, which is actually near East Los Angeles in Monterey Park, which is a Chinese community. And they told me if you don't speak Spanish or you don't speak Chinese, you're not going to fit in. It's best to go to the 2-year program in the San Fernando Valley because by the time you get that, more than just the certificate, but the AA degree, you could then sign up for LAPD and you will get a higher starting salary. So I was prepping for all that, but I had several people, including a Secret Service agent and a eye doctor who told me that I will never get in because of my eyes. And so while I was going to college, I also, at night, like I wasn't already beat to death by the evening, but at night, I went to a private detective school. And most of my fellow students were either there on voc rehab provided by the state of California, or they were retired or soon to be retired police officers and sheriff's deputies. And even though I was exhausted by the time I would get there on Tuesday and Thursday night and have to sit there for 4 or 5 hours for, 4 or 5 months at a time, I aced the class. And therefore, I was hired, did my first job in Beverly Hills for a very famous family, paid for by a very famous person. I did a bang up job, and the phone started ringing. And then I got my training on the streets, per se, for the next 8 years before I acquired my license. Once I acquired my license, August 6, 1992, I continued to work for other people for another 3 years so I could learn the business in. And finally, in the mid 90s, I decided, you know what? Enough is enough. I'm tired of paying for people to buy a nice house and buy BMWs and Mercedes and to pay for their children's college education. So, therefore, it's time for me to start my own business. And I did. And you learn every single day. That's a weird question, Calvicino, but yeah, I'm 3.5% Italian. Let's see. Mm, let me take somebody else out. There we go. See, this is why I wanted to do subscribers only chat, but it wasn't working. But I can always change my mind. In fact, you know what? F it. Let's try that again. This is just a test, people. Okay, I have reset it to subscribers only. So from this point forward, if you want to participate in this chat, uh, Kathy said she did college like that, taught school for 30 years. Well, it sounds like you actually graduated. I didn't. I am forever, for the rest of my life, a college sophomore. And it wouldn't help me to get the degree now because, you know, due to my health, that part of my life is mostly over. I do still have my PI license and I do still have my City of Los Angeles business license. It took so many years to get those that, I renew them regularly. I also renew my guard card, although I'm not a private patrol operator, but I have worked for many private patrol operators doing security and, VIP security. I even did a little armed security back in the day. I haven't done that in over 30 years. I haven't had to carry. LA, it's almost impossible to get a concealed permit if you're not a police officer. It's any other county in California would be an automatic based on my licensing and my background and my training. I was trained by Los Angeles Police Department Academy teachers as far as firearms, so I do have that training. But in hindsight, even though I've learned so much in this lifetime from this, um, if I come back in my next life, if that's even possible, I would probably, you know, go to radio, television, and film school, but be behind the scenes because I'm not really that comfortable on camera. But I would do something like that, especially if I was going to live in Los Angeles and there's so many, unions around here for radio, television, and film that will provide you your benefits for life and, provide your disability, provide your retirement, provide residual income. Now, I am going to get a royalties check on this channel probably at the earliest May 21st. I did make enough in the first month since monetization that I will see a May royalties check. So, yay. And so now that I turned this on. This is really a good test. I turned back on subscribers only mode. And let's try this for an hour. And if it fails, then it's just been an hour out of my life and yours. But in the meantime, I would like to talk about Nancy Guthrie, poor Miss Nancy, day number 92. I can't believe I say this every time that if you told me from the beginning of this that we would be here 92 days later, I wouldn't have believed it. But we are. And that's the same situation for her family. Now, the reason I brought out this document, this special durable power of attorney that pertains to a specific real estate property that belongs to Annie and Tommaso, that she would have his power of attorney if for some reason he couldn't be there to make the decisions. That has nothing to do with just a regular power of attorney, and there's no record of any power of attorney between Nancy Guthrie and Tommaso or Annie. So now there could be an older one that's so old that it's not showing up online, but you'd have to go to Pima County. So for all these people that make comments that have said really terrible things about the family, especially since we don't know who did this yet, saying that, oh, well, she just canceled his power of attorney. Well, if she did, there would be a document, there would be a recorded document within Pima County saying that she canceled it if there was such a document, and that she canceled it, and that she was going to change her will, and therefore they offed her. That's ridiculous. Now I still have my list of suspects up here, but all that talk about uh, her changing a power of attorney, there would have to be a recording of that, like this. There isn't. Now, if you live in Arizona and you live in Tucson or anywhere near Pima County, feel free to go down to the recorder's office and go all the way back to 1975 and see every transaction that ever happened on that house. I would think her daughters would be power of attorney. Well, unless it goes way, way, way back, it's not listed on the county site. And that is a public record. You can't hide something like that. It has to be published. Now, a lot of these counties, their sites only go back so many years. I went back also on the property taxes. The online records with the Pima County Treasurer, they only go to 2019. And, the rumors per some of these big YouTubers who said, oh, she's delinquent on her taxes. That wasn't true. And I did a video about that a couple days ago. She not only wasn't delinquent, but her property taxes have been paid in full even since her disappearance. Somebody paid it on April 15th. Now, as of Friday, May 1st, and I haven't checked today because it's a weekend and they're not open, but since Friday, May 1st, Tommaso and Annie are delinquent. I even showed you the documents with the balance. And between two people, it's only 1,000 and change. That should be nothing. If you can afford a $600,000 home, that's nothing. Does that prove they have financial problems? Maybe. Is it lost in the mail? Maybe. But it just it raises a few red flags. Well, I guess it's just gonna be you and me, Kathy, in the chat. Since I turned on subscribers only mode, let's see if this has helped because we started with, I said 2728, and we're still at 2728. You know, according to people on YouTube, it's a good idea if you want to build your subscriber mode, but I kind of think the opposite, that it just, makes people upset and they're like, well, screw her. I don't want to subscribe right now, so goodbye. It's a test. But as soon as I switch it back to anybody can chat, then all the knuckleheads come in. This might not work. And there's been a problem the last 3 days with YouTube. When I go to start these lives and you set it up, like I set it up on the phone and I hit next, and then it goes to start, the next button to go to the second page to hit start, it doesn't work. And I've rebooted my phone. This is a brand new iPhone. I haven't even made my first payment yet. I'm over $1,000 in the hole on this phone, not including the deposit that I had to make at the store. And then they added a $40 activation fee to my first payment because the guy told me at the store it was only going to cost $28 more a month, and I got a bill for like $168. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, well, there's the $40 activation fee. Well, didn't they charge me that when they charged me the taxes and for the case and for the screensaver and, the chargers and all the BS you have to buy at the store in order to be able to walk out the door? It's kind of like, when you buy a car, but, they're like, well, the wheels and the steering wheel and the keys are extra, like, come on. So, like, this is a brand new phone. I've uninstalled the app multiple times. I've gone into my YouTube or my iPhone settings and scrolled down to apps and see if there's any. I guess if you have a Android, you can clear the cache, but you can't do that with iPhone, with Apple. Yeah, all the hidden fees. But for if I had pre-announced like, hey, I'm going to come on live at 2:30, and I don't come on live till 2:50 because it's taking me 15 to 20 minutes of shutting down the phone, rebooting the phone, shutting down the phone, rebooting the phone. Um, and then I have to remember, I'm sure I didn't even put this into, yeah, I didn't even put it into do not disturb mode yet because, and then my, I'm down to one on the replacement mics, and those aren't paid for yet. And, the battery, if it runs out before the show is over, I don't have a mic. So I'm like, oh, now my battery's running down and, my phone's running hot and like, like just start the show. And every time I look it up on Google, it says to, delete the app, reload the app. If you have Android, to clear the cache, that it must be a setting in the phone. And I haven't changed anything in my phone. Uh, and then when it finally comes back, it says, do I want to send a crash report to YouTube, to Google? Like, no, because I just want to start my friggin' show. So if anybody else has a YouTube channel and they're having that problem, please let me know. Let's see. Let me change this again because this isn't going to work for me with subscribers only mode. Let's go back to anyone. Of course, now, the marriage proposals and the asking me for donations to orphanages in Ethiopia will probably come in. Oh, that's so funny. It's funny all how this has changed so much just since my channel got monetized. Now we got 14 people. I got 16 thumbs up, or 6 thumbs up, excuse me. Now we're down to 12. See, I guess a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like this. And I keep getting, these little messages from YouTube saying goal created at April Davis PI just started a goal. See goal. And that's popped up one, two, three, 4 times when I switched it back to anyone can communicate in this chat. When I took off subscribers only mode, that little pop up popped up 4 times. And I think this is obviously definitely a YouTube issue. Something's going on with YouTube. But where's everybody coming in from today? I'm in Los Angeles, where it's a cloudy, kind of foggy, just kind of a May gray day. It's supposed to clear off later this afternoon, but by then the sun will be setting. But this is great weather for us, May gray or June gloom. This is the way it's supposed to be. 15 people, only 6 thumbs up. Let's hit that thumbs up button, hit those red hearts. Yeah, I can't even see my chat. I just see all these pop-ups. Hey, Jane Rice, you're coming in from Florida. I spent a lot of time in Florida as a kid. You know, and one of my best friends from California, who I've known since I was 18 years old, she and her husband, a few years ago, they moved to the Panhandle of Florida, which I'm familiar with because we lived close to the Panhandle when I was a kid. And she sent me a birthday, like an Amazon gift card, and I've been writing her. I wrote her on Facebook because she likes to IM, and I wrote her for Christmas, and I wrote her for my birthday, thanking her for the card and asking her how's life in Florida, and I have not received an answer back. So I'm getting a little concerned about what's going on in Florida. Like, is somebody ill? Uh, is somebody unhappy there? I know her husband wanted to make the move and she didn't, but so far, every time she talks about it, she says that she loves it there. And I won't name their city, but they are in the Panhandle, so they're on Central Time. They have a beautiful home there. It's about, I think, less than 20 minutes from the beach. Those are some of the most beautiful beaches in the United States there. So what is going on in Florida with my friends? I know a lot of people in Florida, but different parts of Florida. I think the furthest south I've ever been, though, is like Tampa. Been to Tampa, Orlando, St. Augustine, most every city in the Panhandle, and the cities between the Panhandle and Orlando and Tampa, but that's about it. Can't believe we lived near there all those years and I've never even been to, like, Daytona. That would be cool. But Florida's a big state. And it didn't have much of a population when I was a kid, but now, like, you know, seems like half the United States has moved there. A lot cooler this weekend. That's nice. What part of Florida are you in, Jane? If you don't mind me asking, you don't have to type in your address, obviously, but like North Florida, Central Florida, Southern Florida, Panhandle, Florida. And I hear that it's not as cheap to live there anymore. I have another family friend that I've known since age 1, and she said it's getting very expensive. You're in the central or the center of Florida, okay. Well, that's cool because you can drive to all the tourist destinations there. Oh, Orlando, yeah, that's nice. I haven't been there in, like, years, but that's a nice area. That would be a good part of Florida to live, I think. Oh, it's not? When I was a kid, we went to Tampa a few times, which I thought was kinda nice, but then a few years ago, out on the news, there was a national news story. It went national. I don't remember how many years ago, but it showed a restaurant, specifically a McDonald's in Tampa, And while the people were, it was packed too, because Tampa's a big city. And while people were sitting there eating their food, there were certain things, and I'm not going to mention it here because I don't want to get demonetized, but there were certain things in the restaurant that were falling off the ceiling into people's food. And when I saw that, I thought, okay, I'm never in my whole life ever going to Tampa, ever. Like, I, I'm not going there. It's still to this day, like, I can't like put that out of my mind. I need to wipe that image out of my mind. Like, oh my God. Kathy Doherty, you made it back. Uh, oh, there's no attractions? You mean, well, you're in Orlando, right? Don't you have like Disneyland and Universal Florida and YouTube is having an issue because I haven't even been able to get into my own dang show the last 3 days. Takes me like 20 minutes to get on. And I have a new iPhone, but it's not so new that there's something wrong with the phone. Like the start button doesn't work. You have to hit next before you hit start. It's like a two-page thing you have to go through on a live on a phone. Like, I mean, I could do it from my computer, but if I do it from my computer, I'm not going vertical live, and then YouTube won't bring anybody in. And I wish I had more information other than what I showed you guys earlier about this regarding Tommaso's special durable power of attorney that he gave to his wife Annie, but only specifically regarding a property in Exhibit A. And that property address, I'll have to look that up. It's not the same address as where they live now, where they bought that expensive house. So, not sure what's going on there. Oh, you're not going to the attractions? I live right next door to Universal Studios, and like the real Universal, where there's actually a film lot. And I haven't been there in years. And I visited there many times. I spent half my career there, but I haven't been there in a long, long time. And it's a mile down the street from me, on top of the hill. It's a lot of money. Yeah, like you know what? I haven't been to Disneyland in years. And when I first moved back to LA, at age 18, it was only 45 minutes away. Well, now sometimes the traffic from Anaheim to LA can be a 4-hour drive in traffic. Like, and where they used to have the parking lot, that's now the California Adventure or something. I've never even seen that. The last time I was there was probably in the 90s, and I was on a gig. And I was at the Disneyland Hotel and I was in the convention center, but I didn't actually go inside the park. So the last time I was inside the park was probably in the 80s, I'm guessing. Kathy says she loves Disney. Yeah, I've been to Disney World twice in Orlando when I was a kid. I lived in LA as a toddler, and we went to Disneyland or Knott's Berry or the zoos almost every weekend because my mom and I, didn't have access to a car during the week. So it was on the weekends we were here temporarily. So we were always out like doing the tourist stuff. And then I came back at 18 and I went there several times. So I was there at 16 with my family, and then I moved back at 18. My sister would come out and we would drive down there occasionally. Then I did a big gig down there. It was an undercover operation going on. I can't say for who, but um, that was in early to mid 90s. So it's been a long time. Like Disneyland like a totally different place since I've last been there. But now I'm disabled and I have a cane, and you took kids for Christmas in 1999. Wow. Yeah, I haven't been there in years. Jane says, went one time. Yeah, my niece is a huge Disney person, and she lives out of state, but she comes to Disney all the time. But hey, we were talking about Nancy Guthrie. At least I'm trying to. And I decided I would test the subscribers only mode, but I've got one subscriber since I started that, and it may not be from this live. It may just be a generic subscriber. And then we discuss Tommaso's special durable power of attorney in regards to another real estate property that they at least owned at that time, May 2025. So we got a copy of Tomato's signature here. There's so many mistruths about this case. I did hear that 2 days ago that the sheriff gave an interview to a local news affiliate there called KVOA. Um, and he said that, he's sure there's somebody who has information and that reward is still on the table and to please come forward. So that's it. He's just like, but I didn't even see that interview. Apparently, it was just with a local news station. So that's weird that he would do a press conference that's just like for the people of Tucson. It wasn't like a national presser. It was just KVOA saying, we still believe that um, somebody here knows something, and the reward is still on the table, and that was it. Apparently, I didn't have access to it. Kathy said you subbed. Well, you were already subbed, weren't you, Kathy? Or were you not? So you subbed during this live. Oh, and then somebody just unsubbed. So we're back to 2728. We're back where we started. And that is typical, that it'll go up a few ticks and then it'll go down a tick and then go up a few ticks and go down. It's just like, investing in gold, It some days it goes way down, but then over time it gradually climbs upwards. So yeah, someone subscribed and then somebody unsubscribed. So I guess trying that subscribers only mode just didn't work. But thank you for the sub, Kathy. Yeah, where's everybody today? Usually Sunday's a really big day on this case. I did a live on Friday early afternoon, and a ton of people came in. And that video's got like around 3,000 views already, and for me that's a lot. Like for a big YouTuber, that would be nothing, but for me that's a lot. It's a good one too. And I did two videos yesterday. One was on Chandra Levy. Oh, it kicked you off? See, there is definitely a YouTube issue. And then when I finally get the thing rebooted again, it says, "Would you like to send a crash report?" Like, so something's off. Something major is off. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of money if their content creators are trying to go live on their cell phones and they can't push the start button. Maybe it has something to do with Apple. I don't use Android. Maybe it's not an Android issue. Maybe it's an Apple issue. Maybe if I went live on my desktop, but then that would be a horizontal live. And, I don't have enough subscribers yet to get enough people in on a horizontal live. Yeah, this is weird. No, I don't, Aileen. We're talking about the Nancy Guthrie case. Day number 92. I don't even know anymore what week it's been. I was keeping track of the weeks too, because Sunday, it happened on a Sunday. I always, like, oh, it's Sunday, such and such day. This is the start of week number, and I've lost track. I know they lost 12 weeks on that DNA that they submitted to the private lab in Florida. And now they're starting all over again. But how many weeks ago was that? And I do want to get back out in the field and be making my regular long form content. But, I'm limited with my disabilities as to, it's hard to like film and do stuff when you've got one hand basically using a cane, and you got to carry the equipment and the camera and the bags and the batteries and all that with one hand. So it's not going to ever be what it was. But nobody that's watching me now, like on these lives, seems to be interested in the older videos. Well, once again, I'm not trying to hide a message. There we go. I feel like I should pay myself now to be my own mod. And yeah, my teeth are looking yellow, aren't they? But they're not. And I didn't even drink any coffee. They're sparkling clean. And every time I go to CVS to try to buy that whitening pen, they're sold out. And I can order it on Amazon, but it's not one of those Prime items that comes like the next day. It like they say there's like a week or 10-day wait. And usually if you order something on Amazon where it says, it's at least this many days, I find that a lot of those items never arrive. And then they don't let you cancel it right away. And then they say, if you don't receive it by this day, you can cancel it by this day. But then they bump some more days on it and go, okay, well, now it's going to arrive on this day. But if you don't receive it by this day, then you can cancel it. It's just like, and then you have to call Amazon. And so I want to be able to find that in an actual retail store. And hopefully it won't ruin my teeth, because I'd like to keep all my teeth. We are talking about Nancy Guthrie, day number 92. And twice I've tried subscribers only mode, but see, I have a lot lower count of people coming in. So I guess a lot of people don't like that. But if you watch all the back end YouTube videos, they're like, oh, if you would like to raise your subscriber count, then you need to do a subscribers only live. But I haven't seen that that's worked. Maybe it's too early in the day. I don't know. But Sunday night, people don't necessarily want to go on either, because they've had a long weekend and they're tired and they got to go to bed early because they're going to go to work or school on Monday morning. So I thought, hey, it's Sunday. Watch the ball game, watched a little YouTube, participated in a live that was from Canada, and then went on the air. Well, I tried to go on the air, but like I said, it took 15 to 20 minutes because something's wrong with YouTube. Now, I'm not into the freaky shit. Oh, that's so funny. I shouldn't say that word, but somebody came in and asked me, said I should do some freaky shit. That's not what this is about. But yeah, it probably would get the views, wouldn't it? That's not me. I'm not an entertainer. This is a true crime series. You know what? I wish I should have had like a yellow one of those legal pads next to me and write down like all the comments that I've got from the time I started this, and note the ones that were like hysterical or offensive, as long as they were directed towards me and not my audience. But if they're directed towards somebody else, you're gone. Um, but the offensive comments towards myself or towards my channel, or just the freaky stuff that comes in, and then I could actually do a long form content and say, the pros and cons of monetization. Ah. Oh, what was going on in the area? You know what? It just said that there was a potential break-in that was on a street right where Los Angeles and Burbank splits right down the line. That's less than a mile from here. But that was in this direction towards the east. The sirens were towards the north and towards the west. And if there was an attempted break in, there wouldn't have been, 50 fire trucks running to that area. In fact, the one that I saw coming off the freeway, I think was returning from something, going back to the station. Um, so I'm not sure. And then what was a little disturbing is right before I came on the air, there was a ring notification saying that there was 3 cop cars and an ambulance on a particular street near the corner of another street that's right behind me. And I was like, oh no, because there's a woman that was in my, obviously I can't name her because of her privacy, but there was a woman that I went to chemo with. And as far as I know, out of all my chemo buddies, she may or may not be the only one of there was like a group that's left because everybody else has passed. And she's like the last one, like that I haven't heard if she's living or deceased, but I don't have any evidence that she is deceased, but she still lives in that house according to like, phone listings. And they were like, oh, there's 3 police cars right on that cul-de-sac and an ambulance. And I'm like, let's pray that it's not the last survivor besides myself. I kind of don't want to know because then I already have survivor's guilt that I'm still here and they're not. Um, but yeah, there's been a lot of weird stuff in the last few weeks in this neighborhood. Lots of in Studio City as well. Lots of break-ins, lots of masked men. Uh, Tennessee Freemason, hello. And then there was that masked man the other night that was the cacti burglar, in Nancy's neighborhood. And they're making a big news story. That story has gone national because that's how little there is to report on the Nancy Guthrie case. And most of the mainstream media people have already moved on. I mean, they have to report the other news, right? And this is not just a newsy channel, but long before the Nancy Guthrie case happened, I was kind of swaying in that direction because there's always something to report. Thank you, Tennessee Freemason. Is it Tennessee Freemason or TN Freemason? Sorry if I'm butchering your usernames. And the avatars on the phone are so small that I can't really see what they say. So we tried this experiment twice today. Was it twice or was it 3 times, Kathy, where I turned it on to subscribers only mode? Now we're back up to 2729. So I've gained one. Oh, it's Tennessee. Okay, Tennessee Freemason. I remember when you spoke about the Chandra Levy case. Yeah. And that didn't get a lot of views, but I thought that was kind of big news considering that, her parents that are now elderly had come forward and they're they're stating that there's a possibility that her disappearance and her subsequent unaliving may be linked to what's been going on recently with all these missing and unalived people. That's very interesting, especially if this Gary Condit congressman was involved in, some type of UFO research or activity within the government. Like that's kind of like mind blowing. Hopefully people will watch it. Okay, Kathy says I did it 2 times. Yeah, and, we have less than 10 minutes left. You know what? That's a good question, Tennessee Freemason. I don't know if Gary Condon is still living. In fact, the Levys, they didn't even know if there was a guy that an informant said that he did it because he was hired by Condon to do the deed for 25 grand. But this was coming from a jailbird. And this guy that they pinned the crime on had conducted 2 um, assaults, and I believe in that same park, maybe. But he was behind bars at some point. He did have a trial. He did get 60 years, but then information came out about the person that was the informant that showed that his stuff was not very reliable. So they kept asking for a new trial, and they were having these closed door hearings about it. And at some point, and this was so many years ago, but at some point, I think it was around 2017, that they just, the prosecutors basically gave up and overturned the sentence somehow and said, okay, we're releasing him, but we're releasing him for deportation because there was too many question marks around his conviction. And I had questions at the time too. And her parents always thought, they never accused Gary Condon of being involved, but they always thought that he knew more information about it that he was not coming forward with. And I think so too. And so that's very interesting now. In fact, I'm going to do a deep dive in to see if there's any other stations, because I know it was News Nation that was running that interview. Did they just speak to News Nation, or have they spoke to other organizations? Because I'm sure if Larry King was still around on CNN, he'd probably bring them in and interview them about that, because he believed in all that type of stuff. And they even brought President Trump into the conversation. And we don't talk politics here, but they brought President Trump into the conversation, saying that, ever since he announced that he wants to do disclosure, that all these people are disappearing. But this isn't like something that's just a new thing, because this has been an alleged CIA operation since at least the 1960s. Well, if you believe that, there's also a possibility that it goes back all the way to Roswell, that, people within the government or connected to the government or contractors or military people, that they disappear never to be seen again, or they die under suspicious, questionable circumstances. And I just like, wow, like all these years later, because that happened in like 2000, and she was found more than a year later in 2001. And then they never really had the cause of death. I mean, it was assumed obviously that somebody unalived her, but there was never a there was a possible strangulation, but they weren't even sure of that. There wasn't enough left to make a determination. And then they hired their own PIs to go out, in searchers to go out in that area, and they found more evidence that the police didn't find. Tennessee Freemason said, so I looked up his wiki. He is still living. He was born in 1948. Yeah, I'd love to know if the guy that got deported to El Salvador, what's ever happened to him, because the parents, they're completely unaware. I think his name was Gondake, and he was young. He was like 20 years old. The eagle has landed. Welcome in. But no, we're not here to fight. Remember, no politics, no religion, no bullying, and no arguing amongst yourselves in the chat. Because that actually lost me a mod. One of my top mods. She's no longer. She decided to take herself out because she felt somebody was bullying her or arguing with her in the chat. I'm, trying to run my show, and sometimes I have a bunch of notes in front of me, or like today I have, this in front of me, and I'm taking people out and they're just like at each other, and I'm like, oh no 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 no. So everybody has to behave, is what I'm saying. But I miss making the long form content video. There's so much happening just in my own neighborhood right now, especially with, all these burglaries and robberies and police activity. Like I just want to be able to grab my camera, especially if it's close, because I can still drive. Somebody asked me that in a YouTube comment, do you still drive? And yes, I do, but just not very far distances and not for very long. Um, my world is all very close by now, but there's been so much happening, especially in the evening. I'd love to just be able to grab my tripods, grab my camera or my phone and my cords and my chargers and just like go and, see if I can, record a cool video. I know, Jane. Oh my God, I'm watching them now. I'm watching them now. Let me flip the camera. I can't show them for too long or I would get nailed for reuse content. Whoops. See, there they are right now. And they have names now. Sandy and Luna. Yes, and it's always the 3rd graders up at Big Bear Elementary that get to name them, but they don't just, pull the names, off the top of their head. They the organization, Friends of Big Bear Valley, they have people make donations to give name possibilities, and then they take the top 10 and they give them to the 3rd graders. Now, last year when Sunny and Gizmo were born, they let the 5th graders decide because for the last 2 years we had not had a successful hatchling. I don't think we'd had a successful hatchling since Spirit was born. And so the 3rd graders after Spirit was born, the next 2 years, the 3rd graders, they didn't get to choose. So they kind of just flipped it last year and said, okay, it's going to be the 5th graders. And then, if we have successful hatchlings the following year, then we'll go back to the 3rd graders. So for like, I think it's like $5 or $10 an entry, the public can send in like, oh, I want this to be a name. And then they get the top 10. And so now she's got Stormy, she's got Simba, she has Spirit, who was with Shadow, and she has one of the others was with Shadow because the first one was with Mr. B, and then she had a baby with Shadow, and then she had Spirit with Shadow. She's got Sunny and Gizmo with Shadow, and now we don't know the genders yet, uh, and we may never know, but they have Sandy and Luna. So yeah, big thanks to the Big Bear 3rd graders. Hey, Sue Brock. Oh, you know what? We can't talk politics. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that today. So I'm watching them right now, and they're so big that when we had a rainstorm the other night, like they couldn't fit underneath Jackie anymore. They're too big. Not even one would be able to fit under Jackie. So there was that point where they were kind of on the cusp between being too small and growing to the point that they can't fit under their mama anymore, but yet they don't have their regular feathers yet because eagles will grow like over 7,000 feathers in their lives. They don't even have the proper feathers yet to take flight or to keep warm. So that's when they had a snow up there recently, and during the daytime they had sleet and snow, and it's like, ooh, they don't have their down feathers in yet, but yet they're really too big to be under the mama. So they were like all snuggled together, like up against her side. And I was like, God, I hope this is the last snow and rain of the season up there so that they can get big enough to grow the actual feathers that'll allow them to fly and stay warm. It'll be several months, though, before you'll see them fly. But they're huge right now. And apparently, if you look at the beaks, one of them's beak is more curved than the other, where the other one, like the bottom part of the beak, is more straight, and that's how they're telling them apart right now, but that can change. And the larger one, and I don't necessarily know that she was the first one born because they were born only 2 days apart, but the larger one is Sandy, and the smaller one, which is almost the same size, is Luna. Oh, it would be about a 2-hour drive because once you get off the freeway, it's a long, long drive up that mountain. You have to go up into Lake Arrowhead and, Running Springs and Lake Arrowhead, and then it's like mountainous, windy roads. I've only been up there a couple of times for work, but it's a beautiful little town. I have a friend, he and his wife are in the entertainment industry. At least they were. They're retired now, and they have a grown daughter that lives up there, and they said she loves it. I would love to live up there, but I think there's a small hospital up there, but they wouldn't have the medical specialists that I need to stay alive. So, hey, Deanna, welcome in. But yeah, it would be about a 2-hour drive. By the crow's flight, it's much closer. And it's really nice if you listen to this station like late at night. You can hear the coyotes howl, and sometimes something will set them off, and you'll hear like 100 coyotes all howling at each other at the same time, or you will hear very, very late at night. Sometimes if you get turn up the volume and they're sound asleep, you'll hear a hoo, 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 and it's a hoot owl. And occasionally one will try to fly into her nest. And then they have the flying squirrels, Fiona and Freddie, and there's a mouse. I can't think of his name that lives up in the tree now too. And then she'll wing slap, you know. And it does, if you watch this on TV, they don't look that big, but that nest where the camera is, they actually have a guy that goes up there during off season that climbs 7,000 feet up that, you know, it's a very high tree. I think they're almost at 8,000 feet. I think the tree's about 1,000 feet and they're at 7,000 feet elevation. So it's about 8,000 feet in the air. And he climbs up there, with no cherry picker. He literally has to physically climb. And he's like 6'3" or 4" or something. And when he sits in that nest to repair, he looks small. So those eagles are huge. Their wingspan is about 8 feet. It's a gorgeous area. But that land is in peril of being destroyed for development, and they're trying to raise like $10 million, and they to save it, and they've only raised like a little more than $1 million. Yeah, there's a lot of ravens up there. In fact, the ravens got the first clutch, but I think they left that clutch because they already knew there was a problem, and one of the eggs had already cracked, and those eggs apparently weren't viable, and that's why they gave up on them, and then they just let the ravens take them. But luckily, we had a second clutch. And Spirit was born from a second clutch. I had forgotten that. It's been so long. I've been following this since I had my chemo treatment. Like, that's when I got into this. So I've been watching this since probably 2019. I'm like 6 or 7 nesting seasons into this. And these eagles are famous worldwide. And you know what I don't understand though about this channel? And the lady that ran this whole organization, Sandy Sears, she passed away this year. That's why it was kind of important to name one of the babies Sandy. But this station has never turned on this channel, FOBB, um, or Friends of Big Bear Valley, FOBBV, as in Victor. Um, they've never turned on their monetization. They do take the donations for the names when they have the babies, and they're like, okay, it looks like they're going to make it. Let's everybody send in $5 or $10, and for so much dollars you can have so many guesses. Then they get it down to the top 10 to hand to the third graders. But this channel has millions of views, and they need all this money now, or this development is possibly going to flatten this part of the lake. It's actually near Fawn Skin. If you're looking at it on TV, that area where that tree sits is Fawn Skin, and they can't give the exact location, but I kind of know almost where it is just by looking at the maps. um, where Big Bear City is on the very far side of the lake, and the ski lodge, that's also on the far side. Oh, you've been watching 2 years. Go Tigers. As in Detroit? I'm a baseball person, Nick. Tell me more. So, yeah, I'm watching it in the background right now, but I have the volume turned down because I don't want, someone to say, "Reuse content." Yeah, it's just too bad that all these views they've had because I don't think they ever expected they would get this big, but they should have had this monetized, especially when we're on watch for her to birth an egg, and then she starts whistling like a teapot. And sometimes I've seen it quite a few times, but also I've missed it. I've walked away from the TV or I went out to take out the trash, and I was like, "Oh my god, I missed it," because she'll start whistling like a teapot, and then that we can usually tell several days before that they're getting really intense with preparing the nest, like, oh, she's getting ready to birth an egg. But then you don't know if those eggs are going to hatch. There's a very small percentage that the eggs will hatch. And so when you start to see the little hatchlings and the pipping of the eggs, can you imagine how many super chats they would get? And they also limit the chat. They have it closed most of the time to mods only. So they have lost out on probably potentially thousands or even more than $1 million worth of income. And now they need it to save this area so that this land developer doesn't come in and and if he does, you're never going to see Jackie and Shadow again. Yeah, it's called Moon Camp. Exactly. Yeah. So I do watch this in the background though when I'm doing other things. But I especially watch it at night while she's sleeping. And it's funny because the other night she was exhausted, but the babies, they were wide awake in the middle of the night. And occasionally when I hear a hoot owl or an owl tries to come into the nest and she has to wing slap, it's just awesome. Need to grab some bush light and turn on the tigers. Rangers. Sounds good, Nick. No, I'm not. Oh my gosh. Uh, time out. Oh, I've been accused of a lot of things before, but until I had a monetized channel, I never been accused of that. Oh my gosh. And I can't show you to prove it because then I would get my channel taken down. We needed that laugh. So thank you for the engagement and the laughs. What's for dinner? That's a good question. I just did some shopping the other day. Well, I did a pickup and I got some turkey burgers in there and I need to start cooking those because, um, that could go old quick and then I could be in trouble. So I think I may broil a turkey burger. What's it like living in California? California is like the best place in the world to live. Although I hear that Michigan is beautiful, but I wouldn't be able to take the weather there. Deanna says you're hilarious. I just love you. I love you too. Oh my god. I wish someone had been keeping a tally from the beginning and we could write a list of all the questions that have come in, all the bogus accusations, the bullying, the harassing, but where it's funny. If it's towards me, I can handle it. Now, if somebody starts, getting, racist or uh, they just bully a certain group, like, you're gone, you're out of here. But and I don't block any of these people because some of the same people come back over and over and over again. Uh, no snow. There is snow here in LA, but not like right here where I live. Are you talking about that, Jane? But yeah, I'll probably make a turkey burger. Am I looking for a moose? No? What is that about? Not looking for a moose. I'd love to be able to look out the window and see a moose. My parents could do that up in Canada. They could see a moose, but moose burger, no. I don't eat most meat anymore since cancer, but I had to reintroduce like chicken and turkey because my bones were like falling apart with all the cancer treatment I had. So, and it's very hard for me to be vegan because I'm not a big vegetable person. But then I got burned out on chicken, and then I was like, well, maybe I could reintroduce turkey, but no red meat and definitely no moose. There are YouTubers that I won't watch anymore because they like took down a moose on camera. That was the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. And then they high-fived each other. And they're one of the biggest channels on YouTube now in Alaska, and they're high-fiving like, "Hey, yeah, you got it." And they're hugging this 14-year-old, "Oh, congratulations." And the moose is just standing there like, and then she just goes down. It was just, I cried. Yeah, I'd probably starve if I lived in Alaska because I wouldn't eat that. It was horrible, it's horrific. And then a lot of the people that live in the backwoods up there, they trap, and no. I donate money to a place in Florida called Bellowing Acres sometimes. I've bought a few shirts off of them, and, they try to save the alligators because in Florida, over 8,000 gators are massacred a year for no reason. And so but their sanctuary has gotten so big, and it's just the 2 of them, and they've got over 200 animals now, and you wouldn't imagine the amount of money they spend daily just on food, like, they can't even take a day off or take a vacation, and they're just they can't even finish their home that they bought on that property, and it's in the middle of nowhere, and they have all these redneck neighbors that are like, "We don't want you here because your alligators are gonna escape or your crocodiles are gonna escape and kill our dogs," and but yet their dogs come up and harass their emus and try to kill them, and it's just like they're like I think they're an hour away from the closest grocery store just to go buy the produce, which is like, I guess, several $100 a day just to feed everybody, so, um, I like to support animal conservation. But no, I would not you couldn't pay me to try a moose burger. Moose lives matter, absolutely. I even have a special coffee cup that's got a moose. I have a rabbit that's, like, 3 feet away from me right now, looking at me. That's strange, are you coming in from Alaska? Somebody trying to sell me moose meat? Like, that's another one to add to the list. Oh my god. This is out of control now. You know what? As long as you guys this silliness is gonna go on, why don't you guys send me a super chat? Or maybe a jewel that's got a picture of a moose. Those don't cost you anything, those are free. Quentin Broom, yeah, this Dodgers. You know what I realized? It was kinda cold today when I took out the recycles, and I was like, "You know what? I think I want my beanie." And I've been wearing my MGK, Machine Gun Kelly beanie the last few lives, and I'm like, "Let me go grab my Dodger beanie," and I can't find it. And it's my favorite beanie in the whole world. I got my Mustang beanie. I got 2 MGK beanies. I've got a Ramones beanie. But when I wear that, people think I'm a man, so I call that my man cap. Like if I'm going to a dangerous neighborhood, back when I had my business full time, I would wear my man cap so people would be scared. They're like, "There's a man sitting outside watching my house." 'Cause and then the police would come up one time, and I'm like, "Oh, was it this?" That's I said, "That's my man cap." And they would just start laughing, you know. But I can't find my Dodger cap. And I've torn my whole bedroom apart. I live in a very small place right now. Where the heck is my cap? I've got to find it. If not, I need to make enough money here to order a new Dodger beanie. They are such gorgeous animals, yes. And I do have the Minnesota Twins jersey now, which is quickly becoming my favorite shirt. I got a couple of Dodger ones. I've got the City one, the City Connect one, and I've got this actually it's got Kobe Bryant's name on the back. This is a tribute to Kobe. And but I don't have an actual Dodger hat right now, like a cap, and I don't have or I do have, but I can't find my Dodger beanie. And that's my favorite wintertime beanie. And that wasn't cheap to buy. So send me those super chats, people, or let's keep supporting the channel, or at least the free jewels. Doesn't cost you anything. Just if you're watching, this a vertical live, you can send those jewels for free. I think there's an option to buy them too, but I haven't figured out how that works yet. But see, I get like mean, nasty comments about this, like that I'm a man or that I'm a trans. You know, About every other episode, I get accused of being gay, and I'm not, but I'm fully a supporter of the LGBTQ plus community. Everybody here is welcome. It's so funny. The teeth, the neck, even a relative who I hadn't seen in like 30 years came in and said, "Oh, that's the Davis family turkey neck." Your grandpa had that. Like, really? Like, I didn't really know him. I wasn't raised around uh family other than my parents. And now I should have kept a running list. Also, I need to make another mail call video because of all the gifts that have come in. Hey, happy Mother's Day. Thank you, Deanna. There you go. There's one. Thank you so much. From my two fur babies on behalf of Deanna. I am a mom. I have my fur babies. And I had an ex-boyfriend that was I was friends with for many, many years, and he passed away from cancer, sadly, just before my diagnosis. Thank you, Deanna. Um, he used to always buy me, like, gifts on behalf of my animals, and he would get me, like, flowers and cards, and in his later years, he briefly worked, um, for a baker that was in Studio City that was really famous because he was retired, and, but he would get bored, so he would go work, these part-time little side hustles, and he didn't even need the money. He had a full business in Japan, but he would do these side hustles and he would say, "Oh, I'm gonna buy this for my ex-girlfriend." And they would just say, "Oh, no, you can have it because you work here." And these little teeny cakes that were like this big would cost 40 or $50. And they would be like, "No, no, like, what do you want me to write on it?" And so I would get free big sugar baked cakes. And oh my gosh, here we go. Dina, Deanna, Deanna. Those are beautiful. If you act up, April will put you under the jail. I see 4 lockups listed under the chat. Thank you, my friend. How many are those? It keeps popping up. Are you sending that many? Did you send just one? Because it kept popping up. It keeps popping up. Oh, th there's definitely an issue with YouTube right now because it looks like Deanna sent that 8 times. See, it's still popping up. Are you guys seeing that? Are you seeing the jewels pop up? Now that's like 9 times that that's popped up, but the total up at the top that I can see for the rubies, that hasn't changed. My neighbor's probably like, "What the hell is she doing?" Like, there's definitely a YouTube issue because Deanna sent that Happy Mother's Day, and then another one came, and another one came, and then it's coming again. It's still popping up. And then it was starting the train at the bottom, but up at the top, nothing's changing as far as the totals. So Deanna, you just hit it once. Are you seeing the train at the bottom? There's actually a gift train that started at the bottom of the chat. That's never happened before. They're still popping up. That's why I kept hitting the hype button because every time it popped up, I thought you sent me another one. Because sometimes people do that. Instead of just sending like a big one, they'll just send like the smaller ones, and then they'll do it again and again and again. Like here's another sparkle, here's another sunshine, or here's another rainbow, or whatever it is, right? It's still popping up on my screen. And when it pops up, I can't see the chat. That's crazy. So you guys can't see it? Can you see the chat train at the bottom with the little purple gift boxes? That's crazy. I think I got it 20 times, Deanna, but they didn't charge you. It says I got 150 rubies out of that. That's why I kept hitting this. Because I was like, oh, you sent it again. Oh, you sent it again. And then after a while, when I didn't see the total up at the top changing, I got suspicious. Because, oh, it would help to take the lid off, wouldn't it? Like when you guys send the super chats, even though you guys can't see it on your end, there's a little total that comes up. It shows how many people are watching, how many people have thumbs up. By the way, if you're watching right now, 26 people hit that thumbs up. I'm also getting a pop-up constantly that says, welcome to live chat. Remember to guard your privacy and abide by our community guidelines. Learn more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times that's just popped up. Deanna, that was the most incredible jewel I ever received because it came 20 times. And usually they come so quickly. If I turn my head or I'm looking at the bottom of the chat, I don't even see it. And I'm like, oh, I missed it. Because you have to kind of look up on the screen to see it. There's definitely a YouTube issue going on because people are saying, like, I got a message this morning when I woke up saying, I'm trying to send comments on your videos and it's not letting me comment. Or I can't see the chat. Well, if it's a video I just did yesterday, it takes 24 to 48 hours for the chat to reappear. And you'll know when it's there because then they'll put the super things button up there. Like they hold that button until everything is processed. And I'm getting the same message over and over and over again saying, welcome to live chat. Are you guys seeing that too? And then people saying that they got unsubscribed or they hit the bell notification, but they're not getting the notifications. And YouTube did release a video about that, saying that if somebody doesn't regularly engage in a channel, that they're not going to constantly send the notifications anymore because it's causing too many people to unsubscribe. And they don't want their content creators to lose subscribers because all these notifications are going out. So they're like, if you regularly watch the channel, you'll get the notifications. But if you don't regularly watch, we're not going to send those notifications anymore. So that has changed. But there's no reason that they have had to tell me 100 times in here, welcome to the live chat. And that's a note for you guys. Remember to guard your privacy. That just keeps coming up over and over again. And I lost track, but that's why I hyped you so many times, Deanna. So you got your money's worth and then some. And hopefully that didn't cost you anything. If anybody else wants to send a free jewel just to see like what's going to happen, let me know. Do it. I'm waiting for it. That's so weird. And I think I'm not getting a lot of messages either. I'm not sitting in front of my desktop right now, but the chat, I tried to just have it subscriber only mode twice and that didn't work. So then I turned it off. That's crazy. If somebody else wants to send a free one so they don't have to spend any money, go for it. We'll see how many times it comes across the screen. Boy, we've talked about everything today, but this was supposed to be about Nancy. But I certainly don't mind talking to you guys about the our eagle family up in Big Bear. And what's really cool too, especially if you listen at night when it gets really quiet up there and there's like the wind going across the lake, you can hear a lot of air traffic up there. And a couple years ago, I'm like, how come I'm hearing so much air traffic? And then I realized that these are planes that are coming in from the east that are coming into LAX. And a lot of them go right over the lake or near the lake. And you can track them from there all the way to landing. And it's not that many minutes out when you're at Big Bear Lake before they're, actually here on the ground. And it's like, wow, isn't air travel amazing? Like, there's planes from, the ones that come from the like Asia, they'll come across and come around Malibu and come down the Hollywood Hills and past my house and then loop around. But the ones that are coming from the East Coast or Canada, they'll actually come over the lake. So you have the air traffic, you have the coyotes, and God forbid there's a police car or a fire truck up there that just sets off the coyotes. Then the hoot owls. Um, Sadly, occasionally Shadow or Jackie will bring a rabbit to the nest. I prefer just to see it be fish. Sometimes it's fish, sometimes it's coot, but there has been the occasional rabbit that's been brought up there. And that makes me sad. But I know it's part of nature, it's part of the food chain. And now the chat has gone completely frozen. Is anybody trying to chat? Is anybody trying to type in the chat? Uh, Z says hi. I don't know, Deanna, because they said there was an attempted break-in on a street that's the border of Los Angeles and Burbank, but that wouldn't explain all the fire trucks. That would explain the police helicopter and the police cars, but that wouldn't explain all the fire trucks. And when I went out live on camera, one of the fire trucks was actually exiting the freeway and heading back towards the station. So I don't know what that was about. And that was during the daytime. Most of this burglary robbery activity with the ski mask has been going on at night. And most burglars strike during the day. And then today, like I said, there was something that was right behind me. And I know a lady, she was one of my chemo buddies that lives on that street. And they said there was 3 police cars and an ambulance. And I was like, oh my God, I hope it's not her house. Like, I don't even want to know. Because if something happens to her, then I'll be the only one left out of all the chemo buddies. Sometimes they use the fire trucks to block traffic. They do here in my city, a little small town. They usually just don't have that type of time, because they're so busy on calls. But there was an awful lot of them. So I'm thinking maybe there was two things going on at once. Hey, Jay. This has been a weird one today, Jay. There's a lot of issues right now with YouTube. The last 3 days, I've had a very hard time going live, and you missed all the excitement. Miss Deanna sent a really beautiful jewel gift, but it popped up on my chat like 20 times, and I kept hitting the hype horn. And then I looked up at the totals, and I realized those totals weren't rising, but and the other people here couldn't see it. It was stuck, and it just kept going on repeat over and over and over, and I was like, "Hey, hey, hi," like, "Thank you." Like, she would have had to bought a lot of, uh, jewels to get me that many rubies. And then the usual knuckleheads have come in, and I tried doing subscribers only chat, but then nobody was coming in. So now I got 26 people, and, I do get paid for the views. Well, sort of, if you're on an Android, a desktop, or a tablet. If not, then I only get paid for the views, after the live on the playbacks. The lives work a little differently than the regular videos. So I was asking if anybody had any free jewels to give, send one and we'll do a test, but I guess everybody's out of jewels right now. I don't know how often YouTube um, refreshes the jewels or adds them to your account, because I was in a live before I did my live and I noticed I only had like about 12 left. And I'm like, well, how do I refresh these? How do I earn these? How do I buy these? There's just that option wasn't coming up. I think it is a YouTube issue. But you missed the beginning while we talked about this. This is a copy of a power of attorney that Tommaso signed over to Annie, but only in relation to an older property that they have. Don't know what that's about, but there's no evidence, unless it's an older document, that they held Nancy's power of attorney. People keep emailing me going, "You don't understand. They had her power of attorney and she canceled it." Well, if she did, it would be a public document, and it isn't. Oh, you've already sent all of yours to me. Thank you, Jay. Hi, Will Byers. Yeah, I watch a live every Sunday. It's up in Canada, and it's from the gold community. And I'm certainly getting the itch lately to do. I haven't hunted any gold since I've been doing this. I need to do some mailbox mining or some couch mining. But I watched this the big gold community, um, and I noticed that my jewels were getting kind of low. I thought, well, how do I replenish these? But there wasn't like an option on my screen, so I'm not sure why that is. But thank you, Jay. Indiana, I can't explain why I saw your Happy Mother's Day heart, which was beautiful, by the way, 20 times approximately. And like an idiot, I kept blowing the horn, thinking, wow, she sent another one, another one, another one. That's a very good question, Quentin Broom. He says, I wonder if Savannah has a Bitcoin account. No one has ever said. That's a very good question, because the FBI told her that the first two ransom notes that were demanding, first the 4 million in Bitcoin and then the 6 million, that they believe those to be valid based on things that were at the scene that somebody who wasn't involved wouldn't know about. And that at some point, someone, and I don't know who, if it was the police or the FBI or the Guthrie family, somebody did put a small amount in that I heard was under 300, like not 300 Bitcoins, but under $300 worth, just to see if somebody would bite. And nobody did. Verta says, I want to know also. And that's when, after that, those 2 dates expired, that's when Tommaso and Annie started receiving the ransom text demand from this Derek Kaela or Kaea character here in Hawthorne, California, in Los Angeles County. It's down next to Torrance. It's in Hawthorne, the home of the Beach Boys. And as soon as the FBI came to his door, he totally surrendered and said, "Yep, I did it." But he had their private cell numbers and even called one of them. Quentin says that was a mistake. Too low. I was confused too, Deanna, because sometimes people do send it multiple times. But then when I notice up at the top of my screen, I can see like the super chat total, which by the way, for today is 0. And I can see the jewels total. And basically for every one that you send, like for every 2 jewels that you send, the creator gets 1 ruby. That's because YouTube is taking half of that. And if you pay for them, you're paying for them plus they're taking half. So they're double dipping. So for every 2 that you send, I get 1 ruby. And 1 ruby equals 1 penny. And right now my total is 150, which equates to $1.50. Thank you very much. But it kept popping up on my screen again and again and again. But my viewers who were in the chat at that time, they were like, I can't see it. And then at the bottom, it was starting a train. Just like when there's a super chat train, and it literally looks like a train going across the screen, and all the donations are like little individual box cars or train cars. There was a gift train that was going across the bottom of my screen. But you only send it one time. So, which most people would do. Most people send 1 or 2. And that's why I kept hyping you, because if somebody sends a super chat or they send a gift, I'll hype you. Jane Rice says, "Night all." Night, Jane. Thanks for coming in, honey. So that was weird, Deanna. And I assume since my total says 150, that costs you 300 pennies, which would equate to $3. And then I get half of that. Night, Quentin. But it kept coming up on my screen again and again. And then the train was starting, like, oh, there's a little gift box train. That's definitely a YouTube issue. So, but now that that's happened, anytime I see that, I'm going to look above and see if the numbers are going up. And if they're not going up, then I'm going to realize something's stuck. And it's not my phone. It's just YouTube is having issues. Germans, please. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Is that for the language? If Savannah has a large Bitcoin account, they may be targeted that. I don't know. That's a good question, Quentin. And I'd like to know who sent that little mini payment just to see if they would bite. And I do think that the reward that she wanted to offer right away should have been on the table, but it wasn't, because apparently either the police or the FBI thought that wasn't a good idea, because then they would get too many false tips coming into the tip line. Because when there's money involved, that pushes more people to be knuckleheads. But I would have offered that immediately. And she probably now wonders, like, well, maybe I should have done that. Maybe I should have offered that more quickly. And she did, but they just told her not to put it on the table right away. I mean, at first, the Pima County Sheriff said there was a $2,500 reward, and I don't even know who put that $2,500 in. Um, and then the FBI threw in an X amount of money. I think it was 25,000, then it was 50,000, and then a private donor, I think it was Crime Stoppers, came in with 100,000, and then all of a sudden, finally they let Savannah put her $1,000,000 on the table. But I just think that that probably should have been offered from the very start. It wasn't enough money. They can filter tips with AI. Bitcoin is not something that I understand, but I do hear that it's not completely private like people think it is. Like if they were to take the withdrawal, like it would be able to be seen who took the money. They'd be able to trace it. Guess I need to post the rule book. um, yeah, no cursing. I understand that person's upsetness. Oh, did I show you this? This is from Sandra. This is CoverGirl. This is my favorite brand. And the one that I like the most, which is it's called something Kiss. It's very hard to find now, but this is the closest thing I could find. Sandra, who is in Tucson, Arizona, she is a neighbor of Miss Nancy. And her former husband used to work at a local news station there with Savannah Guthrie earlier in her career. So she actually knows Savannah Guthrie. And she sent me a whole bunch of gifts, which I already thanked her for a couple of shows ago. But for you ladies out there, isn't this gorgeous? Yeah, I'm going to use the screen as a mirror. If somebody wants to send me that dental whitening pen, I won't turn it down. Just saying. Uh, is the guy who confessed really our killer? Who has confessed? I know a guy said that his brother did it. And that guy has, got some mental health issues. My hubby has it. I stayed out of it. Would rather deal with cash. Oh, as far as Bitcoin? Does NM mean New Mexico? Now I need a tissue. Yeah, I bought this remember I did that makeup haul at CVS because I had all those rewards and coupons. This was one of the things that I found, and it's also made by CoverGirl, and I love it. But when I put it on live, if I don't like have a tissue to like dab my lips, I find myself, like smacking my lips a lot. It's very pretty. I love CoverGirl products, and I think they're humane. They're not like they don't test on animals. But this is from Miss Sandra, and I just love it. This is great, and I go through so much of this. Drop the NM. So let's drop the NM and say my hubby has it. I stayed out of it. Would rather deal with cash. Yes, Quentin. They played in St. Louis, and they're probably on the plane to Houston right now. They're traveling, and they won. And I missed the beginning of it because it came on extra early because it was a travel day from St. Louis to Houston. And apparently Dustin May pitched for the Cardinals and he lost. And, even when he was a Dodger, I never liked that guy for reasons I won't go into, things that were going on off the field. I never liked that guy. And I said, I don't care if he's the best pitcher in baseball. I don't want him as a Dodger. He was bad news, bad luck from the start. And I would have loved to have known that the game was coming on early and seen him give up the 3 or 4 runs that he gave up because I've never liked him. And apparently when they got there on Friday, they did award him his World Series ring because he did play for part of the 2025 season. Yeah, and apparently he's cut that awful hair. But he did play for the Dodgers for part of last season, and he played for Boston. Uh, Now he's in St. Louis, and I forgot that he was going to pitch today and that the game was coming on early. And I would love to understand Bitcoin. Maybe somebody here could explain it to me and send me some Bitcoin. If I had invested in it years ago, it would be worth a lot of money today. But, anything that you don't understand is a financial risk. You'd be better off buying gold. Yeah, it wouldn't let you comment. You had to go out and come back in. The last 3 days, I haven't been able to start my show because I have to set it up on the screen and then hit next and then hit start, and it won't let me hit next to go to the second screen that has the start button. And I'm pulling my hair out. And I've had to, turn off the phone, reinstall the app, go into the back end. Like, how can I be a YouTuber and come on the air, especially if I said, "Hey, I'm coming on at 2 today," and I pre-schedule the show and then I don't come on, everybody's going to leave. So YouTube is having a lot of issues. And then it let, you know, your super chat come 20 times, but it didn't charge you 20 times. So if I got a buck 50, did that charge you $3 or was it one of your freebies? Hopefully you guys are just using your freebies. Yeah, but Quentin, I'm glad he got his butt kicked today. Never liked him. There's one more guy that's on the team too that's in the bullpen. The fans don't like him either. He's a big problem. When you're a baseball star like that and the whole world is watching, you got to be careful what you say and do off the field. So I guess we'll have to watch them with the Astros, or as we say here in Los Angeles, the Trastros. Yeah, who confessed, Berta? Oh, it had to be free because you don't have a credit card stored. Yeah, they give you so many free jewels. I guess the more you participate in chats, the more jewels that you earn, and you can give them to content creators, but only in a vertical live form. They replace super stickers. They used to have super stickers, and they still do have them. But if you're going to do a vertical live on a cell phone, then you can, instead of asking for super stickers, you can set up jewels, and then YouTube gives you so many. Berta says, "How about Nancy is gone or not? Or are we still hoping and praying that she comes home safely?" Oh, I think she's definitely gone, like, as in no longer with us, but let's still bring her home. I don't understand that. Steve Sachs off the mark to first base. Steve Sachs was second base. What does that mean? Steve Sachs off the mark to first base. Yeah, she's gone, says Jay. And if this keeps going on and she's never found, I think we need to, I hate to put all my eggs in one basket, but we gotta wait for this new lab that the FBI sent the rootless hair to get a hit. Thank you for the engagement, but you're out of here. I must have had the points. I have never sent a jewel before. How many points did they give you? I'm just curious because I was briefly monetized in the past for a very short period of time, and they hadn't even introduced the jewels at that time. So when I finally got my monetization, turned back on like more than a year later, I was like, "Oh, what's all this?" Oh, he couldn't make the throw off it's psychological. Yeah, I do remember that. And he's had some hard times because his son, and I think it was the same son that when they went to the World Series in '88 and they flew back from Oakland, he's seen in the airport carrying a baby, a little boy. And that little boy was, a man who was a US Marine, and he was stationed at Pendleton, and he got killed in an airplane crash. So he has lost his Marine son. I think he has other children, but yeah. So I just kind of feel for Steve Sachs now because people still harass him about his playing career. He gets very defensive about it, and he lost his son, and it was like it wasn't even in combat, and that's how most soldiers are lost, just in routine missions. I think it will end up being Nancy's hair or one of her kids' hair, which would be common. Supposedly they got it from her bed or her bedroom. Wouldn't that be awful? And we made it to 27:30 because my little LaMetric clock that has a YouTube counter on it just went ding ding with a little bicycle ding. Sounds like a little bell. Remember those bells from your childhood on your Schwinn? And you go click click. It had like a little button on it, little tab. That's what it's set to right now. But now that I'm monetized, I kept saying once I'm monetized, I'm going to change that to the ka-ching. But when I tried to change it a few weeks ago, I heard a pop and I thought it had died. That's been a very problematic piece of equipment. I think it will end up being Nancy's hair. Wouldn't that be awful? Because I thought they thought it was somebody else's hair. I remember Steve Garvey at first base. I don't remember him starting at third. That's a possibility, but I was very, very young when Steve Garvey was playing for the Dodgers. I remember when he was a Padre and he was wearing those ugly brown uniforms. That was when they still had, the old stadium. He's an old man now, Steve Garvey. My hair's all over my house. Well, it is natural for people just to lose hair. Yeah, he played first base. I don't know if he ever played third. That was a long time ago. But I do remember because I'm that old. 25 people watching, only 19 thumbs up. And thank you so much, Deanna, who sent the the one jewel that ended up coming across my screen 20 times. How it usually works, Deanna, if somebody sends a super chat or they send a gift, I will shout you out and I will sound the hype horn. But I kept sounding it and people were like, I can't see it. I can't see it because it kept popping up on my screen over and over and over. I might have to pin a comment on the replay that the gift tab was working improperly during the video and I kept getting it again and again and again. Let me adjust this a little bit. I'm still getting used to the new tripod. Well, is there anything that anybody wants to ask me before I sign off? Because I'm starting to lose my voice here. I wish there was more information to talk about Miss Nancy. I think on the weekends they're just kind of taking time off now from this. It's not like a top priority for them anymore, which is sad. They still should let the searchers come in. I heard and read they had someone in custody that had been in the connection with Annie and Tommaso, and as far as hair, believe it is his. As far as I know, nobody's ever been in custody, ever, for this case. When were they in custody? There's been a few people detained. The only person that was in custody was the text, uh, the guy that was sending the text ransoms, and he was very briefly in federal custody, arrested by the FBI and posted bail within hours. And his trial is scheduled for June 23rd in Tucson. Why do they have a red number in the front? I haven't seen a red number. We're Dodger blue. Even those awful city uniforms, those Nike city uniforms, they don't have red, except for the Nike swoosh mark. Yeah, when did they have somebody in custody? I believe it's just going to be a random hair. And if it's the guy from the front porch, who I still believe I know who that is, they're not going to find him in CODIS. And I've dropped a dime twice on that name to the FBI. But I'm not going to name names here. And I could be wrong because I don't have access to the information that the police have access to. But I got a pretty good idea who front porch guy is. Don't remember that, Quentin. And I'm old. Possible. Send me a picture, aprildavispi@gmail.com. Yeah, nobody's in custody. Uh, Dominic, not Dominic, but Derek Kalela, he's waiting his June 23rd federal trial in Tucson. No, that's a Kobe number 8. That's a special jersey because it's a tribute to Kobe Bryant. I thought you meant the uniforms that this is an aftermarket. It is sold by the Dodgers, but or by Nike, but this is a Kobe jersey, a Kobe Bryant tribute jersey. That's why it's different. I thought you meant the players on the field. Now you know what you're saying. Yeah, that's why it's got the KB patch on it. That's a tribute to Kobe, even though he was a basketball player. Yep, but he's a big, you know, he's sort of the captain of Los Angeles as far as sports is concerned. So they've done Dodger tribute jerseys to Kobe Bryant just because he was such a big part of our community. Yeah, he's the only basketball player that they've ever done that for. Even Magic Johnson is co-owner of the Dodgers, but they don't have a Magic Johnson jersey. This is just it's a tribute jersey to Kobe. Yeah, rest in peace, man. I remember the day that happened. I was still doing my chemo, and I remember the laundry was full in the back, and I had to go to the one next door, and I had to walk, and I could barely stand or walk because of chemo. And I looked up at the Hollywood Hills, and I saw like the fog was really bad. Like, wow, this is really bad. And it was his pilot's fault for choosing to fly in that. Not even LAPD or LA Sheriff's Department was flying that day, and a lot of the commercial planes were not going up at that time. But he, decided to get those people there in a hurry, and it didn't work out, did it? Well, let's see. I believe that guy was at her doorstep, was one of the FBI agents? You mean front porch guy is an FBI agent? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm sorry if I'm reading that wrong. We'll just have to see what happens. Hopefully something's gonna break soon, but I'm not counting on this, rootless hair being the thing that's the end all that's gonna solve this. I hope so, but I think they're gonna not get what they want from that, and I hope I'm wrong. But I'm gonna pray for Nancy, and I'm gonna pray for her family, and pray for Savannah, and hope that we have answers soon because there's only so many more times I can come on the air and talk about this unless there's some new breaking news. Then I'll be happy to. I'll go on the air immediately if there's some kind of, something huge breaks, but I just don't foresee that happening in the immediate future, sadly. But everybody, thanks for coming.